Yeah, very much so. You know, I'm going to reveal something. Now, I'm not an Italian Jew, Rabbi, but, and I think now, did your family speak Spanish, Ladino?
They,
Jewish
my, par
Spanish at all?
my parents spoke Ladino to each other when they didn't want the kids to know what they were talking about. So my vocabulary consisted of sex and money.
So my mother's side of the family came to America about 100 years ago from Salonika in Greece, and they were Sephardic Jews who had the tradition, not secret Jews, fully Jewish tradition, going back to the Inquisition. And my grandfather came to America as a young man in about 1910, and by 1913 at Ellis Island, and I went onto the Ellis Island website, I found my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, my great-uncle, and my grandfather's future wife all arrived in August of 1914 on a ship, from, I guess it was from Perez. So now, here's the connection to the Italian side. So I always thought of them as having gone directly from Spain to what was then the Ottoman Empire to Salonika.
Right.
And then I was reading, and lo and behold, their family name was Capon. We call it Capon in America, and in Hebrew we would say, or in Italian we'd say Capone, C-A-P-O-N. And lo and behold, I read about Laura Capone, whose father was a high admiral in the Italian Navy in World War I, and Laura Capone married Enrico Fermi. They were Northern Italian Jews, and eventually they went to America. So all of a sudden, and this is my question to you, all of a sudden I thought, well, maybe indeed my family kind of stopped off in Italy for a generation or two, who knows, and then went on to Salonika. But indeed, my mother, who was born in 1918, she should rest in peace, on the Lower East Side of New York, and she was largely raised at the beginning by her grandmother, who did not speak English and spoke Ladino, Jewish Spanish. My mother spoke Ladino before she spoke English. So, I mean, and this is straight back to, to the Inquisition and to the expulsion of the Jews. My youngest daughter very much wants to try to get Spanish citizenship. So tell me, do you think that I've got some an Italian Jewish connection with my name?
Of course you do, because Capone is a Calabrese name. We find it in the toe of the boot in the area of Reggio Calabria, and I would suggest that taking a look in Saloniki, there is a Calabrese synagogue there, and I don't believe that it is operating now. It is a bit of a museum, but there is a plaque on the side of the building listing all of the names of the original members. And I would suggest that you look there, because I would bet that the name Capone is there. And it is a Southern Italian name, and sometimes it's Capone with an E at the end as well, which is the plural. That's not unusual to have Capone with an I, Capone with an E, to signify... So
are we theorizing that Al Capone was a secret Jew?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we've got some in our background that we're not too proud of.
By the way, speaking of cultural affinity, indeed, if you look at the whole gamut of mafia films, of The Godfather, always in the ethnic overlay of the mafia, they always had a disdain for other groups, right? I mean. You had to be in the Sicilian family. But always in these movies and in the books, if they have a connection which is kind of equal or culturally equal or appreciative, it's always with the Jewish mobsters.
That's right.
They could be lawyers, they could be the money men, the Mayor Lansky's, but they got along. And maybe that's it.
Well, the two money men for Al Capone was a man by the name of, I believe it was Alfredo Aiello, and he was one of the consiglieri of Al Capone, and the other finance guy was a Jewish man. There's a lot of affinity between Italians and Jews, and it's not just.
But it's very interesting.
It's very interesting. Well, as with all ethnic groups, you've got the good, bad, and the ugly.
All right. Well, I think that's for another episode, the Italian Jewish Mafia roots. You know, very, very interesting. But I'm going to ask you one final question here, Rabbi, to kind of tie this together as we close out this episode. So if we have viewers that are watching this with us, what kind of questions should they be going back to their older family members and asking if they think by watching this, you know what, my family might actually have Jewish roots? What are the kind of questions that we could say they could go back and ask their grandparents or their aunts and uncles to find out maybe there's some of these, you know, lost traditions on their side of the family?